This is Ryan Abraham, Connor Morrissette, USCFootball.com. Instant analysis here, Resorts World in Las Vegas. Beautiful Las Vegas for Pac-12 Media Day. The last one for USC, but the very first one the Pac-12 is holding in Las Vegas. And we got Connor, new hire here at USCFootball.com. We were both there listening to what Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams, Mason Cobb, and the other Pac-12 coaches and players had to say. The little lunch break right now, but it was nice. For the first time, and for I can remember, USC went early instead of very at the end. Usually in their LA, they'd kind of keep the LA media around, have USC and UCLA go last. USC going early kind of give us a chance to feel it all in. But what was your first Pac-12 Media Day like for you?
It was great. I love the access. It was cool getting a chance to go one-on-one with Mason Cobb. So that was interesting. Caleb Williams, great talking to him. Lincoln Riley. I just like how everyone's so available here, and you can really ask anything you got to ask. So it was very helpful, and I had a great time.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good environment. They kind of cram a lot in. A lot of the Power 5, all the Power 5 conferences do multiple days. Pac-12 does it in one. We can start off with what George Kliavkoff had to say early on. So I know the USC is leaving the Pac-12, but they're still working on a media rights deal. He said that they weren't going to announce anything. They wanted to focus on the football because there's so many good quarterbacks and good teams. But it just sort of left a bad taste in some people's mouths because you've been waiting a year for this kind of media rights deal to come about. Obviously, it's not going to impact USC, but USC still exists on the West Coast. And the future of West Coast football seems to be hanging in the balance depending on what happens with this media rights deal.
Yeah, it was interesting. He said we can afford to wait, and the longer we wait, the better the deal is going to be, which a year ago, that was not the case. Everyone was saying you got to get this deal done ASAP to lock the teams in for as long as possible. One thing that I gathered, and of course it could all blow up in smoke in a second, but it seemed like everyone is on the same page, and I think that fact means that they can wait. And if maybe Colorado was thinking about leaving, or another team was thinking about leaving, the fact that everyone's united and they're patient and they're ready to wait, I think that bodes well for the future of the conference. But 20 years from now, with the SEC and Big Ten making so much more money than the Pac-12 and some of these other leagues, I don't know the long-term fix, but I think the short-term fix is going to come for the conference. Yeah,
for sure. And it's funny, George Kliavkoff didn't mention USC by name in the beginning, or UCLA. Even though USC was the preseason, football media poll, they picked number one to win the Pac-12. Mentioned a Heisman Trophy winner, didn't say, from USC. So maybe a little bitterness in the last Pac-12 Media Day without for USC and UCLA.
Yeah, and I asked Kyle Whittingham, the Utah coach, about not playing USC anymore, and he said, we're just focused about the upcoming game this year, not really on our mind. And then I asked, are you going to miss playing them? And he said, we've certainly had some good games against USC, but the future of college football, who knows what it's going to look like down the road, years from now. So he wasn't really he didn't take any shots either, and that was good to see. I all class with Kyle Whittingham, so I expected that. But asking him, and I was trying to kind of poke the bear a little bit, he didn't give much in terms of just getting mad about USC leaving or UCLA leaving or anything like that, so that was good to see.
Yeah, of course, Kyle Whittingham beat Lincoln Riley twice last year. Cam Rising, the quarterback, he's on the mend. Yeah,
he's a killer.
For sure, he's on the mend. They're not sure if he's going to be ready for the opener, but by the time USC plays Utah, he should be around for that. So, but stay tuned. We'll get more information on Utah and the rest of the Pac-12 going forward. But we want to hear what Lincoln Riley had to say. He was up on the main stage with Yogi Roth and Ashley
Wilson.
And so they were talking and on Pac-12 Network, a little different format. So they would have the coach up there getting interviewed by a panel, plus all of the all the questions from the crowd. And then they would have the players come up after that. But Lincoln Riley then had a breakout session. So it's kind of all over the place, but a lot of questions, NIL, the future, all that stuff. Anything kind of stand out from what Lincoln Riley had to say?
Well, my favorite quote, and I tweeted it out, was, we're not worried about the beginning of the climb. We're worried about getting to the top of the mountain, something along those lines. So just this year for them, it's championship or bust. They want to get to the top, and I think this year it's realistic, whereas last year, I remember back in the spring, Coach Riley talked about how I may have said that we were ready to compete for all these great things, but I don't know if I really believed it back then. I think now there's a belief with this team that they can get to the top, and we saw that today. So that was my big thing, and there were some other smaller tidbits that were interesting, but I think just their confidence and the fact that they are really excited, and in their last year, the Pac-12, that they not only could win the conference, but could really make some noise in the college football playoff too. that was alluded to and talked about a little bit, so that was great to see. The expectations are high, and it's nice that that's happening at USC because, as you know, it hasn't always been the case the last few years.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, because if you're a head coach coming in, you see Deion Sanders coming to Colorado, you can't say we're going to win later. Like, you have to win now. And to go from 4-8 to 11 wins is a big deal.
Yeah.
We were having lunch, sitting down next to Lincoln Riley, talking about the fact that USC hadn't won a playoff before. They hadn't won the conference since 2017, and you could see the sort of look in his eye. That's the focus. This is the last year. Like, this is your last opportunity. You'd much rather be a coach that's won a Pac-12 title and then moved on to the Big Ten and done great things than never having won it there. So it seems like that's something that's important to him and the staff. They really want to try to win, get a championship on the way out.
Yeah, and he also mentioned a tinge of sadness leaving the conference a little bit. Of course, excited about the Big Ten, but he was asked, do you feel a sense of melancholy at all about leaving? That was the word the reporter used, and he said, yeah, I think that's accurate. I think we do feel that way. It is sad to be leaving. They are, of course, excited, but I thought that was interesting, too. Of course, they're really looking forward to what's next, but it is sad that it's their last year in this great conference with so much history.
Yeah. I mean, so many years and so many championships and so many things going on in the Pac-12. But, moving on to the Big Ten, one guy that won't be moving on to the Big Ten is Caleb Williams. He's not going to be around, most likely, and either Mason Cobb. So the two USC player representatives, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, Caleb Williams, and then, maybe a surprise, Oklahoma State linebacker transfer, Mason Cobb, who's coming in. And, last year we heard from Shane Lee, another linebacker transfer, another guy that's come in and been a real leader. But let's start with Caleb Williams, who was addressing the media, and, a lot of hype around him, obviously, with returning as a Heisman Trophy winner. Anything kind of interesting from what you've heard from Caleb Williams?
Yeah, so of course the goal is to win the national championship, win the Heisman again, but he has three other goals that are important. He wants to throw fewer interceptions, which he didn't throw too many last year, but that was one of them. He also said, I want to improve my mental state, and he alluded to, in the Utah game, that hamstring really bothered him. And he said mentally, if he's able to play, if the injury doesn't take him out of the game, I got to do better even if I am a little banged up. So he talked about the mental state. And then the last thing, maybe a little bit of a cliche, he said I want to be a better leader and a better teammate. So those I thought were interesting because, of course, every player who plays college football wants to win the Heisman, wants to win a national championship. But what else do you want to accomplish? Getting to the bottom of that with Williams I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and then on the Mason Cobb side, very interesting person to talk to when Caleb was asked about it. Talked about his leadership, how well-spoken he is, and just comes in and, becomes not just a part of the team, but someone that people could look up to. I know you had a chance to talk with him one-on-one. Any sort of interesting tidbits coming out of that one?
Oh, a ton. He said that when Coach Riley called him and asked him to be a representative for USC at Media Day, he cried because it meant that much to him. This is such a big deal for him. And in his head, he's going to be one and done at USC, off to the NFL after this year if everything goes well. So I thought that was interesting. And he just seemed really mature, really like an adult. The guy who's coming in, he knows the plan. He entered the portal with a plan. I want to go to a school that's going to elevate not only my game, but give me a chance to elevate the team. And I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship with USC and Mason Cobb, so that's cool. And he's just so mature, so wise beyond his years, and there's a reason he was asked to be here, and that, even though I only talked to him for about 5 to 10 minutes, that came out in that conversation, really mature. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a captain. That's really just what spoke to me about talking with him. I was really blown away.
Yeah, and the captains are voted on by the players. Lincoln Riley, I talked to him at lunch about. He said he does get a vote, but it's just one vote, so it's all about the players. If he's coming to Media Day, I think there's a really good chance he ends up being a captain for this team. But any other kind of final thoughts from this? We're still in the middle of all of the coaches and players and stuff talking, like the after lunch portion of the program. UCLA is going last. But it was nice to get USC kind of out of the way. We can talk about it and then kind of listen to what other people have to say. But any kind of final thoughts?
Lincoln Riley was asked about the defense and Alex Grinch, and he went on this big soliloquy about how I believe in Alex Grinch everywhere he's gone. Year 2, it's been great. He's a fantastic coach. He's going to turn it around. So I think, obviously he believes in him. He's his defensive coordinator, but there's a real reason other than just them being friendly for why he brought him back. Coach Riley really believes in Coach Grinch, and that's why he's still here after the disappointment that was the end of last season. So I think defensively, the big question is how much better is it going to be from last year? Of course, it's going to be better with all these transfers. It has to be. And I think it's going to be pretty good. I do see the defense being a lot better, and I think Coach Riley's confidence in Coach Grinch came across today, and I think there's a lot of buy-in on that defensive side of the ball. So I came in here with some questions about the defense, and the players and coaches answered a lot of those. So it won't be as good as the offense, of course, but defensively, some questions were answered from me today, and I'm excited about what that side of the ball is going to look like in the fall.
All right, well, that's going to wrap things up here from Resorts World in Las Vegas, Pac-12 Media Day 2023. The last time we're going to be here talking about the Trojans as part of the Pac-12. So for Connor Morrissette, I'm Ryan Abraham. Make sure you check out USCFootball.com for more.